Broadcasting from occupied territories or the flea media, it's the Reality Dysfunction Podcast. A space where a diverse group of brown folk from across the nation explore the political experiences and social future of our Chicano Latino community. Control the narrative. Resist the dysfunction.
Welcome back. My name is Pauline and Adan, as you know.
My name is Adan.
Perfect. And how's your lovely day today, Adan?
Pretty good. Let's talk about what we're going to do today.
I think today is a good day to talk about each other, kind of talk a little bit more in depth into who we are, you know, how everything's going for us.
Yeah.
That's nice. Like, where are you from, Adan?
I'm from Chandler, like Arizona. Where are you from?
I'm from Goodyear, Arizona.
Goodyear. How's Goodyear?
I feel like it sounds like it's very predominantly white, but
Sounds like it.
It's not surprisingly. There's actually a lot of Mexicans that live over there. Like a lot of Sonorans started coming, and like people from Mireles started coming down. My school was like 90% Mexicans, so it was nice. It was very familiar, and there's a lot of comfortability.
Gotcha.
How's Chandler? I feel like when I think of Chandler, I think of white city, very like rich area.
It's actually quite the opposite.
Really?
Well,
is there like two parts?
There's
like the ghetto.
There's
like
the ghetto and then the white.
The fancy.
Yeah.
So how's that?
Growing up in like the ghetto part, it was, I don't know. You saw a bunch of Hispanics. There was 2 high schools, so on the same road, just a few miles apart.
Damn.
So I went to the one that had like majority like diversity, and then you look just down the street. It's like, oh my gosh, all these white people are going to this school. So it's like you can tell who's from where.
Did it feel very segregated?
Yes, but they cover it up really well.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
I went to a fairly small high school, so it was very compacted onto like just a few acres. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I remember we were talking.
We were talking about our school, yeah.
And I showed you mine.
Yeah, your school was huge. My school was like the complete opposite. It was so tiny. How was it? Did you grow up there?
Yeah.
How was it growing up there? Do you think it was like you're so used to it? Do you think there's like dangers to it? Or like how do you feel about that?
I mean, definitely it's gotten better, let's just say. It used to be, like from what I hear from like my mom and from my uncles, it used to be very ghetto, like shootings. I don't see that much, so it's like better, I suppose. Yeah. How's Goodyear? How is it like crime rate rise?
I feel like it's not that bad to me, at least. Like I don't think that it was bad. I also did kind of move around when I was younger. I was there when I was born, like the same house. But we moved to Phoenix when I was like 4 to 5, and that was like a bit ghetto. But I was so young that I couldn't remember. And then we moved to Washington State for like the money. So that was like completely different because that's when I experienced the most racism. All the white people over there. And then after 3rd grade, I moved to Glendale, and then that's when I can say like there was a little bit more violence a little bit closer to Westgate. But I lived in like this little area where there was a lot of just like foolery, I guess. Tomfoolery. And then I eventually moved to Goodyear and back to Goodyear, like around 4th grade, and honestly, it wasn't that bad. I think the more the population grows, the more like the dangers come. Because around my junior year to senior year, that's when things started happening, like people getting arrested, or like this one student like had died, and like just things like that. But it was interesting.
When you talk about Goodyear, is it like more of an isolated city, or how would you describe that? Because like with Chandler, you have Mesa to one side, you have Gilbert to the other, and then if you keep going, like it's like kind of Phoenix. So
no, I don't think it's isolated because it's Goodyear, and then if you like drive 20 minutes, it's like Buckeye,
Mhm.
and then it's like Litchfield on the other side, and then it gets closer and closer to like the more. We are like a lot farther from downtown, maybe about 30, 20, depending how fast you drive. If you drive,
Like a maniac, like me.
like if you drive like us, then maybe like 20 minutes, 10, 20. But it wasn't really isolated. I think it started growing a lot too. Like I said, like more people were coming in, they started growing things. There's a Chick-fil-A in like side of the corner now. There's like 4 or 5 Starbucks for no reason.
I think that's actually really cool. But also like, oh my gosh, only one Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
It's like,
well, there's one in Litchfield, but it's like,
yeah.
I don't know. How was
like,
it in Chandler?
That's like what I mean though, because like Chandler, because it's Chandler, Mesa, Gilbert, so you could literally drive less than 15 minutes, probably 10 max, to one side of the, like one outer edge of the city to the other.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. And it's very populated. So you have a whole bunch of like these fast food restaurants, and you can see them. Like you go further into Gilbert, there's another Jack in the Box. You go to Chandler, there's like several. So it's like for you to have only like one of the major like chains like that, like Chick-fil-A's, there's so many.
Yeah.
So it's like
yeah. I wanted to ask, because you did talk about how Chandler is very populated. Do you think that was it a lot of like our kind, like Latinos? Or
yes.
do you think it was diverse?
They like to say that it's diverse.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do just see the predominantly Hispanic or white. But like I said, how it seems
kind of like segregated.
Seems segregated. One side of the city was filled with all these white people, and then on the other side was filled with all the Hispanic people.
How do you think that felt? Like, how did you feel about that? Because do you feel like you've experienced like racism towards like your own? Do you feel like you like fit in a lot because it's a lot of your own people, or how was that?
I didn't really notice until obviously when I got older that, oh my gosh, these two, like, it's starting to make sense. Like races are clearly separated and segregated.
Yeah.
I didn't really experience any racism just because I feel like in the area that I was in,
it was mainly kind.
Yeah, it was mainly Hispanic. Our kind. Yeah, it was mainly Hispanic. I mean, there's aspects where you can see racism towards each other.
Yeah. Because
you got the no sabos. For all my no sabos out there, I'm with you. It's okay.
Tears in my Latina eyes.
Yeah, you can really see like, oh, you're not a real Mexican. Oh, yeah. This and that.
Or the colorism that goes on too.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing.
Yeah.
Because for me, I can definitely say there's a lot of like racism within, but when I was in Washington, that's when I experienced a lot more of the racism because there was a lot more like white people. I remember specifically, it was like it was me and this like little white boy who lived right next to me, and we were like getting off the bus, and he called me a dirty Mexican. And I was like, I'm not a dirty Mexican. I'm clean.
I'm clean.
I shower every day, mind you. It was definitely a weird change of being in a mainly white area and then like being the only brown person to moving to Glendale and Goodyear and becoming like so used to seeing a whole bunch of other people that like I blend in with. In the beginning, Goodyear did feel very like white, and I think I also lived in kind of like a secluded area. Like the more I went through high school, the more I was like, oh, like I'm not the darkest one here. Like, but I do definitely see a lot of like racism, like offense towards each other, and it's not even like Latinos on Latinos. It's like there's like hate within like everything. You know what I mean? And it goes like everywhere. So that was like another thing that I was like, I didn't really like that. Just strange to me. How do you think it is like now being here, being in college?
Oh my gosh!
Do you think that you're slowly starting to see more Mexicans? Because you and I are both in like we kind of go to Mecha here and there, or we both in like a Chicano studies class. And, like, we met each other, so that
Yeah.
clearly means that there's, like, Mexicanos here, like, Latinos.
I'm going to summarize that into, like, how was the transition, because that's how I'm interpreting this question. It felt weird going from that predominantly Hispanic, like, community to, oh my gosh, Hispanic serving institution, but I still have trouble, like, finding other Hispanics, and I don't think it's just because, like, oh, there's less events and this and that. It's either people aren't interested in it, or there really isn't that much Hispanics here, and I think that's really weird. I think within Flagstaff as a community lacks the, like, where's my panderia? Like, where's my dulceria? Like, I've only seen one.
The one that we went to?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's also strange, being able to drive, like, barely a few minutes. Because there was some in Avondale, and we were, like, just a few minutes down in Avondale, and there was, like, 5 carnicerias there.
Yeah.
So it was definitely strange. Yeah, I completely understand that. I think because we come from a mainly more Hispanic area, we're so used to, like, not needing Hispanic clubs or anything like that because we were all very Hispanic.
Yeah.
But now that we're here, and now that we're in an area where we, like, see each other but we really don't, it's like we have to make this club because we don't really see a lot of representations. And I think that's what's interesting too, because we don't really, like, I don't know, it's just kind of strange.
Yeah.
Like I talked about the first episode about how we randomly see Mexicans here and there, and we're like, oh my god, like, another Mexican!
Oh my gosh.
No way.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting to see up here? I went out with my friend and I talked to this guy, and he talked about how there's a lot of diversity here, but sometimes I just, like, kind of don't see it. And I mean, like, I get people can be, like, Hispanic but just don't see it, like, you don't see it. But I think it's just strange because we come from areas that it's so proud. It's so, like, oh, your parents speak Spanish to you. Like, you're going to say, like, words here and there. You have an accent, or you definitely look Mexican, to coming to an area where it's like, yeah, like I'm Mexican, but like, I do this and this and that. So I think that's definitely strange, because when I think of diversity, I think of people really representing themselves.
Yeah. Going back to that comment, though, where it's like, oh, it's so diverse here, I think it also stems from where they're from. If you're from an area where, oh my gosh, it's only white people, and then you're finally seeing all these people of color, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, there's so much diversity. When really, in reality, it's like you're seeing diversity at minimal, you know. And I really think that's weird. But also, everybody's entitled to how they feel, and if that's how you feel, like, oh my gosh, there's so much diversity, then clearly that is, because it's probably a big, like, culture shock as well to them.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, I don't know if this is personal, but do you remember your first time encountering racism?
No.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Do you think because you were such in a like area filled with, like, Latinos, you didn't really experience it, or do you think you just never really, like, just got to experience it?
Well, now thinking about it, not racism from, like, other, but I do remember, like, racism from within the community.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you don't speak Spanish very well. Oh my gosh, why do you understand? But, oh my gosh, you look like you're so dark. And it's like, okay.
It's strange that it's like our own people, like, giving you so much slack and so much shit for, being like that.
Yeah. And I kind of just think it's a little unfair.
Yeah.
Because you're taught that you shouldn't speak Spanish because it'll get you this.
Yeah.
And then once you're like, okay, I won't speak Spanish then, and you lose that opportunity to learn it, it's like, what am I supposed to do? You told me not to.
Yeah.
So it's very, I understand where it's stemming from. You want your child to have a better life, and you want your child to do this and that, but within the community, I don't think they understand that within themselves.
Yeah, I think it's like a thing where they have a child, and back then that's when immigration was like that, and it was easier to cross the border, and it's becoming harder, deportation will happen like whatever, and there wasn't really a lot of set plans and rules. So as parents, they're like, I don't want you to speak Spanish because we're gonna get caught, like we're gonna like get deported and everything. But then it becomes a thing that later on, once you don't really speak Spanish or you're not as fluent, it's like why don't you speak that like Spanish? Like I grew up raising you with Spanish, or like ¿por qué no entiendes? Or like a lot of like hate within our own community. It's really strange. I think it's strange.
Yeah.
The colorism like
The
gets
colorism,
me especially because my mommy, she's native, she's red, and I like to like whenever she goes in the sun and she goes to like Puerto Peñasco and comes back, she's always like super super red, and I think she looks absolutely stunning. But I feel like there's a lot of Mexicanos, especially like in Mexico City, like my brother-in-law, he's like a güerito. His eyes are like, his grandpa's eyes are like azul. It's just strange to me when I hear about that or when I like see videos about that, because it's like you would think that you would be proud of it, but you're not. I did want to ask another question. What do you think, like, because you're Mexicano, right? Well, you're like Chicano. What do you think that like does for you? How do you feel about that? Like, what's your representation of that? How do you like represent that?
That's a good question. I take pride in it. You know, my father had came here for a better life, and in some ways he got it. And I just think that's to represent yourself within that shows the struggles that your parents have gone through. And I really think that that's important to underline and to state, because once you lose sight of that, it feels like they have came here in vain.
Yeah.
Especially in the times we are in now. It's like, why would you want to come here? And then being Chicano really represents like, this is why they came here. This is why to get a better education, to get a better job, to start a life, to start a family. And I think when you start bringing those aspects into your identity, it really transforms you as a person. How do you deal with it?
I take extreme pride in it. Extreme. I think who I am is very beautiful. I feel like if I somehow went through reincarnation and I had a choice, I would still choose to be Mexican. I am very proud of who I am, and like you said, like my parents came here for a reason. My dad was brought here. My mom came here with my brother, and she had like my sisters and everything. And she came here because she wanted a better life for my siblings and for herself, for the amount of shit that she went through. Even then, like I remember growing up dealing with homelessness or just like racism and everything, and I take so much pride in everything. And I think I'm really proud of where I am because I'm the first person in my family to ever get here. I don't really like the hatred within family and the hatred that comes along with it. But at the same time, I am very proud of who I am, and I am very acceptance. I know technically, like, I'm Chicana, I'm Mexican American, but I feel as if I take so much more pride in just saying, like, I'm Mexicana. Like, my parents are from Mexico. My mom is Mexican. My mom hopped that border, and I'm fucking here. Like, I am here. I'm a college student right now at NAU doing a podcast about being first generation Mexican. And I love that. I don't feel uncomfortable talking about the racism. I don't feel uncomfortable putting someone in their spot, like their place, and telling them like what you said is wrong.
Yeah.
Or I disagree with you. I feel like there's no diversity because I'm used to diversity.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I think there's a lot of pride.
Pride with no remorse.
Yeah.
I think that's really.
Because, my parents worked hard. Your parents worked hard. And my dad worked especially hard to get me here and help me pay for college. And, I live in a nice-ass house in Goodyear. And props to him because, people think, like, Mexicano and, like, either you live, like, in an apartment or, like, the homes that all look the same.
Yeah.
Because that's Arizona. for me personally, I live in a nice ass house back in Goodyear, and that's so much pride to be like, yeah, I'm Mexican, but fuck, my dad's like making good money. He's building houses, and it's a whole thing of like, oh, Mexicans build houses. He owns a company to help build houses. Like, that is so much strength. He didn't even pass middle school, and he didn't go to high school. And my mom got her GED through like going to the classes because she didn't pass high school too. I have so much pride to be here because they're fucking doing so much, and they're doing so much, like so much shit. And now I'm proud that I'm going to be doing so much that I want to become a doctor and I want to make 6 figures, and I'm going to do that shit because I know my dad did it, and there's so much possibility to that. That's what I don't know. That's a lot of pride to that.
Yeah, and I think that's important. You should have your pride with no remorse, and you should have that confidence. You should really rock it.
I do want to see a lot of more, not just Latinos, but just all type of like diversities. Besides, like, a lot of white people in school and, making 6 figures and in good jobs, like going to school for these things. I think that's well needed to see, and I love that nowadays things are growing, and I'm on TikTok and I see, like, those sad videos, people graduating and putting their caps and gowns on their parents, and I want to see more of that.
Yeah.
Like, look at where we are.
Look at where we came from.
We're sitting here in a podcast talking about being first gen because there's not a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I also wish people reached out more about it, when Ernesto pulled up with that email talking about who wants to be in the podcast, and it's only you and I who went on who reached out. And it's I know damn well there's a whole bunch of Chicanos in that class and Latinos.
Yeah.
So it's like, come on, guys. Be who you are for your pride. How about like school? How's school going for you? Besides, being Latino and everything, just how's school? How are you?
I'm good. It's not hard, but it's a learning experience.
Yeah.
I suppose, being that first gen with finals coming around the corner, it's like, oh my gosh.
No.
So, yeah, pretty good. How's your semester going? How's it gonna wrap up? How's it looking?
Honestly, let's be honest, not well. I did go through a really, really rough patch mentally, and I'll be open about that. Like, there's no shame in that. So I think I'm just trying to catch myself up. But I think now that everything's ending, everything's coming to an end, and I'm finally realizing that I need to be better. But I also overcame the fear of I'm not going to be good enough, to me being like, my parents got me here, so I'm going to be good enough because I want to be good enough.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely a process. It's not easy, I'll say that.
Yeah. Nothing's really easy here. Anyways.
But I really enjoyed talking to you, Adan. I really enjoyed this conversation.
I enjoyed this conversation too. I have one last question for you.
Oh.
Taking what's important for you,
mm-hmm.
How would you form that into a statement that would be empowering for others?
A statement that would be empowering? That's a really good question. I feel like there's not really something that I can say with people it will resonate as much. I feel like the most I can say is, do what you want to do regardless of what's going on, but also be who you want to be. Don't push yourself down and make yourself something that you're not. Honestly, fuck it.
Yeah.
It's the best way I could say it. Fuck it.
Fuck it, we ball.
We ball, exactly. Fucking live, laugh, love. Shit.
For me, education is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Agree.
So, I guess my words of encouragement statement would be, don't let others get in your way to getting that education. Don't let policies, don't let money, don't let your family, and that's really hard to say, get in the way of you getting a better education. Because in the end of the day, education is something that you'll always have and no one else can take it away.
This is The Reality Dysfunction.